Right now, as you are watching this video, roughly a third of the planet is wrapped in complete darkness. But for you, that darkness is meaningless. You can flick a switch and flood any room with light. You can scroll your phone, drive down illuminated highways, or walk into a 24-hour grocery store at 3 in the morning without even thinking about it. But rewind the clock just a few hundred years, and darkness was not an inconvenience. It was a prison. And if you go back tens of thousands of years to the world of our earliest ancestors, nighttime was something far worse. It was a daily 12-hour battle for survival against predators, freezing temperatures, and the absolute terror of not being able to see anything beyond the reach of a flickering campfire. So what did ancient humans actually do during all those long, pitch-black hours? The answer turns out to be one of the most fascinating stories in the entire history of our species. Because the night didn't just test us, it shaped us. Many of the things that make us fundamentally human, our language, our storytelling, our social bonds, even the way our brains process sleep, were forged in the darkness. Let's start with sleep itself, because what our ancestors did at night would completely shock a modern sleep scientist. Today we treat sleep as a single, unbroken block. You go to bed around 10 or 11, set an alarm for 7, and try to get 8 straight hours. If you wake up in the middle of the night, you panic. You call it insomnia. But here's the thing, that 8-hour block of continuous sleep is a modern invention. For most of human history, our ancestors practiced something called biphasic sleep. People would go to bed shortly after sunset, sleep for about 4 hours, then wake up naturally around midnight, and stay awake for 1 to 2 hours in a calm, quiet, almost meditative state. After that, they would fall back asleep for another 3 to 4 hours until dawn. This was not considered unusual. During that midnight waking period, people would pray, talk quietly with their partners, tend the fire, or simply lie in the darkness thinking. The historian Roger E. Kirch spent 16 years researching pre-industrial sleep patterns and found over 500 references to first sleep and second sleep in diaries, court records, and medical texts spanning centuries. When researchers at the National Institute of Mental Health placed modern volunteers in 14 hours of darkness per day, mimicking pre-electric conditions, the subjects naturally fell into the exact same biphasic pattern within just a few weeks, as if their bodies remembered an ancient program that electric light had overwritten. But sleep was only part of the night. The most transformative thing our ancestors did after dark happened around the campfire. To understand why fire was so revolutionary, imagine what nighttime felt like without it. Total, absolute blackness. Not the kind of dark you experience in your bedroom with the curtains drawn. Real darkness is standing in an open savanna at midnight with no moon and not being able to see your own hand in front of your face. You cannot see the ground beneath your feet, but you can hear things. You can hear rustling in the grass. You can hear the low, rumbling growl of something with night vision that evolved specifically to hunt in the dark. Then, somewhere between 1 million and 400,000 years ago, early humans learned to control fire, and everything changed overnight. Literally. Fire extended the usable day by 4 to 5 hours, and those extra hours were fundamentally different from daytime. During the day, survival demanded constant vigilance, hunting, foraging, scanning for predators. But around the fire at night, with the threats pushed back into the darkness beyond the flames, something extraordinary happened. Humans started telling stories. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying the Juhwanzi Bushmen of the Kalahari, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies. She recorded thousands of conversations and compared daytime talk versus nighttime talk. The results were remarkable. During the day, about 34% of conversations involved complaints and criticisms, and most talk was practical. But at night, 81% of firelight conversations were stories. Tales of distant lands, ancestors, myths, and legends. The campfire transformed communication from a survival tool into an art form. Those nighttime stories served a critical evolutionary purpose. A story about a poisonous water source 200 kilometers away could save lives. A legend about an ancestor who outsmarted a lion taught survival strategies to children who had never faced a predator. Firelight storytelling was humanity's first information network, a spoken internet connecting isolated bands across continents and centuries. Some researchers believe these nightly sessions trained our brains to process narrative, metaphor, and abstract thinking. the cognitive tools that would eventually produce religion, philosophy, and science. But for all its power, the campfire did not make the night safe. It only made it survivable. Beyond the circle of light, predators still waited. Leopards, hyenas, wolves, and in some regions, hostile human groups. Our ancestors developed what researchers call the sentinel hypothesis. In groups of 20 to 30 individuals, not everyone slept at the same time. Someone was always awake, either in their midnight waking period, too young or old to sleep deeply, or simply restless. The group was never fully unconscious. A study published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society analyzed sleep among the Hadza people of Tanzania. Researchers fitted 33 adults with wrist monitors for 20 days and found that out of over 200 hours of nighttime observation, there were only 18 minutes total, when every single member was asleep simultaneously. 18 minutes. The rest of the time, someone was always watching. This chronotype diversity was not a flaw in human biology. It was a feature, a survival adaptation evolved to keep the group alive through the most dangerous hours. Then came artificial light. It started slowly with oil lamps and candles, but the real revolution came in 1879 when Edison perfected the commercial light bulb. Within a generation, the ancient night was destroyed. For the first time in 200,000 years, darkness became optional, and our biology was completely unprepared. Electric light suppresses melatonin, the hormone regulating our sleep cycle. It tricks our brains into thinking it is still daytime. The biphasic sleep pattern collapsed into the artificial 8-hour block we use today. Screen light, particularly blue wavelengths from phones, is especially destructive. Modern humans are essentially living in permanent mild jet lag, fighting biological rhythms that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. And here's the deeper irony. We lost more than just healthy sleep. We lost the midnight hour, that quiet, wakeful period between first and second sleep, when our ancestors would think, reflect, connect with partners, and process the day. Some researchers now wonder whether the modern epidemic of anxiety, loneliness, and chronic stress is partially rooted in the loss of this ancient nightly ritual of quiet wakefulness that our brains were designed to experience. The night shaped humanity in ways we are only beginning to understand. It gave us stories, language, social bonds, and a sleep architecture perfectly tuned to our biology. And then, in less than 150 years, we flooded it with light and tried to pretend it never existed. But speaking of how our ancestors survived against impossible odds, their nighttime strategies were only part of the story. During the day, they faced entirely different deadly challenges, and the ways they tried to heal injuries and fight disease were often more terrifying than the illnesses themselves. If you want to discover the most insane and brutal medical treatments in human history, check out our previous video where we break down the horrifying truth of ancient medicine. Trust me, it will make you grateful for every modern pill and bandage. See you there.